You know that moment when someone raises their voice, twists your words, and suddenly, you're not just defending your point. You're defending your dignity. You try to stay calm, but your chest tightens, your thoughts blur, and before you know it, they've made you feel small, and you don't even know how they did it. Carl Jung once said that what you resist persists, especially in the shadows of human interaction. Aggression often doesn't come with fists or fury. It hides in clever words, smirks, interruptions, and questions that sting in disguise. But here's the truth. You don't need to fight fire with fire. You don't need to shout to be heard. You can protect your peace, preserve your power, and disarm an aggressive person by using something far more powerful than anger: emotional clarity, symbolic awareness, and verbal mastery. In this video, we'll explore 6 deeply psychological, Jungian-inspired verbal responses that not only stop aggression and they make the aggressor pause, reflect, and sometimes even feel sorry. Because this isn't about winning a battle. It's about never letting someone else drag you out of yourself. Let's begin. Before we dive in, if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling misunderstood, twisted, or silenced, leave a comment below with the word strength so we know you're healing. And if this journey resonates with you, tap the like button, subscribe to Stoic Prowess, and hit the bell, because every week we explore how psychology can be your quiet superpower. Now take a deep breath, and let's move into the first verbal shift. Help me understand what you mean by that. When someone speaks to you with sharp edges, when their tone is coated in judgment, or their words feel like a trap, your instinct might be to react. But reacting gives away your power. Instead, pause and respond with curiosity, not defensiveness. Ask, "Help me understand what you mean by that." It sounds soft, but it's not weak. It forces the other person to slow down, to clarify their intent, and often to expose the shallowness of their aggression. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious reveals itself through projection. What others throw at you often has more to do with their unresolved shadows than with who you truly are. So when someone attacks, they're often projecting a fear, a wound, a part of themselves they can't face. Your calm inquiry shines a light on that shadow, and most people aren't ready to see themselves in that mirror. By calmly asking for clarity, you're not only setting a boundary, you're making the aggressor pause and reflect. And sometimes, that pause is the beginning of regret. I hear you. Are you open to hearing me too? Aggression wants control. It thrives on imbalance, one voice dominating the other. But Jung taught that balance is the path to individuation. And in a heated conversation, balance can begin with a simple, powerful phrase, "I hear you. Are you open to hearing me too?" It's not confrontational. It's an invitation, one that subtly reminds the other person that respect is a two-way street. You're not asking for permission to speak. You're holding space for mutual understanding. And here's the paradox. When you offer that kind of emotional maturity, the aggressive person is faced with a choice. Either they match your tone and engage respectfully, or they reveal their unwillingness to connect. And in doing so, they expose their own emotional immaturity. Either way, you remain grounded because your worth isn't tied to their response. And that, Jung would say, is how you stay whole in the face of conflict. That's one way to look at it. Sometimes, aggression doesn't sound loud. It arrives quietly, in the form of sarcasm, mockery, or passive-aggressive remarks masked as opinions. You know the type. The subtle jab hidden behind a smile, the statement meant to corner you into silence. But Carl Jung taught that reality is never one-sided. Truth, like the psyche, is multifaceted. And when someone tries to trap you in a one-dimensional narrative, you don't have to argue. You simply say, "That's one way to look at it." It's calm, it's grounded, and it leaves space for disagreement without drama. It lets the aggressor know you see through the game, but you're not playing it. This phrase diffuses the tension without feeding it. It shows that you're not easily baited, and more importantly, that your sense of self isn't up for debate. I'm not comfortable with how this is going. Let's pause. There's a line, and when someone crosses it, when their voice rises, their words sharpen, and your nervous system starts to tighten, you have every right to step away. Not in anger, but in self-respect. Jung believed that boundaries are not just defenses, they are expressions of your evolving inner self. So when a conversation becomes more about dominance than dialogue, you can say, "I'm not comfortable with how this is going. Let's pause." You don't owe anyone your peace, and you don't have to stay in a room where your soul feels under attack. This phrase doesn't escalate. It doesn't accuse. It simply ends the game, on your terms. And often that pause, that silence you create, it makes the other person hear themselves for the first time, and that can be louder than any words you could ever speak. Is this really about me or something else? There are moments when someone lashes out at you, not because of who you are, but because of a storm they haven't named. Jung called this transference. When unhealed pain is transferred onto someone who triggers it, that someone is often you. Maybe your calm bothers them. Maybe your confidence reflects what they've buried. Maybe your silence makes them feel exposed. So when an interaction suddenly feels more hostile than it should, pause and gently ask, "Is this really about me or something else?" It's a mirror, not a weapon. It doesn't accuse. It invites reflection. And that reflection can be deeply uncomfortable for the other person. Because you're touching the nerve they're trying to avoid. You're not defending, you're uncovering. And sometimes the moment someone sees their pain named out loud, they no longer need to project it onto you. This is where conversations can shift, from combat to consciousness. Let's not talk to each other like this. We're both better than that. This one is for when all else fails, when voices have risen, when words have cut, and when it feels like neither of you are at your best. Carl Jung believed in the integration of opposites, the union of the shadow and the light. And that means sometimes, even when someone is being harsh, you speak to their higher self, the part of them they may have forgotten in the heat of the moment. You say, "Let's not talk to each other like this. We're both better than that." You're not excusing their behavior. You're inviting them to rise above it and reminding yourself that you are choosing not to be pulled down. It's one of the hardest things to say in a tense moment because it requires you to see the humanity in someone who may not be showing it. But when you say it, it plants a seed of awareness, of dignity, of emotional maturity. And that's the kind of seed that doesn't just make them stop. It makes them think, sometimes even makes them sorry. Final reflection. Aggression doesn't always wear armor. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it sounds like concern. Sometimes it echoes from someone you once trusted. But here's the truth Jung whispered beneath every theory he ever wrote. You are not obligated to absorb the projections of others. You are not a container for someone else's chaos. You are allowed to be clear, to be calm, to be deeply rooted in your truth, even when others are not. These verbal shifts are not just about being clever in conversation. They're about reclaiming the quiet power that lives in you, the part that refuses to shrink, the part that knows, "I don't have to fight to be free." Sometimes the most powerful response isn't louder. It's lighter. It's loving yourself enough to stay composed in a world that keeps trying to shake your ground. And when you speak from that place, not even aggression can stand tall in your presence. You're not here to win arguments. You're here to rise above them. If this video resonated with you, if you've been in moments where you felt twisted, cornered, or disrespected, drop a comment below with the words, "I choose calm." Let others know they're not alone. Tap like to tell the algorithm this kind of content matters. Subscribe to Stoic Prowess for more Jung-inspired emotional tools and healing insights every single week. And remember, you don't have to meet fire with fire. You can meet it with a mirror and let their reflection do the rest. See you in the next one. Stay soft, stay strong.